Julie here from Lakes and Hills, and this is a little video about candle tunnelling. Yes, some people always say, do you know what, it doesn't matter what candle I buy, I seem to get candle tunnelling. Yeah, it can be a bit of a nightmare, but it also can be what you're doing, and using correct techniques and learning some things about the candle could actually help you. You know, it's not always to do with the make of candle. Sometimes that you can buy a candle from a shop and you get no problems with it, and other times you do. Different manufacturers use different processes, different types of wick. It's really difficult. So it's hard to pin down, but basically there are a few things that you can check to see if you're doing the right things by your candle. So one of the things is what is candle tunnelling? Well, it's that horrible thick rim of wax that seems to stick to the edge of the vessel, and then only the centre seems to burn. And you know, it is such a waste. It's a waste of a candle, and you think, oh, I've paid some money for that, and I'm not getting the full value. So there's a few things that you have to do. First of all, is your house cold? Now, you can have your central heating and you can have a centrally heated house, but maybe you go out to work in the day and your heating isn't on. That can affect the candle vessel, the actual glass itself. Plus, you can also get cold spots and drafts in your room. Sometimes I've heard people go, well, it only seems to get a rim of wax on one side. That's because one side's on a warmer side of your room, and believe it or not, you've got a cold spot. And people go, really? And I go, yeah, really. You know, it can happen. And so you need to make sure that if that is starting to happen, just twist your vessel a little bit, just really gently, and see if that helps. But also making sure that when you light the candle, the vessel itself isn't that cold. I mean, you take, for example, these glass ones. You know, glass can get very cold, as can the metal. But, you know, you've got to just see how cold is your room. Have you had your central heating on in the day? If you haven't, and you've come home from work and thought, oh, do you know what? I'm going to put my feet up, have my cup of tea and put my candle on. Is the actual vessel itself cold? One thing I use, and I might launch these eventually, is called a candle cozy. Yay! It's like a little woolly jumper for candles. Now, I'm out a lot during the day, so when I come home, you know, my house is quite cool. So what I do is I make a little candle cozy like that, and can you see it sort of keeps the glass sort of warm, or the vessel warm. You can use these on metal, you can use these on anything. So these are called candle cozies, and the idea really came from Scandinavia. They are absolutely obsessed with candle cozies, mainly because they live in a cold country. It makes perfect sense. So they tend to use them. Now, what I do is, if I've been out and it's a freezing cold day, just like the other day was about -3 for the first time this year, I then made sure I'd had my candle cozy on, and it was fine. Everything's wonderful. And I just light my candle and leave it on for a little while, and then you can slip it off. But it really is a great ingenious way. It's like jumpers for candles, really. It's a bit bonkers, but it does work. The other thing that I tend to find how people can end up with candle tunnelling, especially if you've bought a paraffin wax candle, they seem to really stick to the glass. And if you don't go by the manufacturer's guidelines at the bottom of the candle, you could have a problem. Each candle should have, by law, safety guidelines, either at the bottom, or mine's in the top as well, and double safety there. And it will tell you how long you should burn that candle for. Now, what people tend to do, and I've noticed them do sometimes, is that they'll get so excited about lighting their candle, they will light it for an hour and then go, oh, I've got to nip out. And this is the very first time that they've lit the candle, bearing in mind. So they'll go, oh, need to go out, got to go out now, I'm going to have to extinguish a candle. Yeah, totally agree. Don't leave candles on when you're not supervising them. So they extinguish the candle and leave it. Now, here's the interesting thing. Candle wax has memory. Yep, you heard it. Candle wax has memory. It's totally true. So if you're only burning it for an hour, and the first burn should be 3 to 4 hours, you're not allowing the melt pool, which is the liquid wax, to be on the full level of your candle. So what you need to make sure, especially if this is a first burn of a candle you've just bought, is that you make sure that it's got a full liquid wax across the very top diameter of your vessel for the very first time you light it. That will help you no end. So just imagine that you've got a problem with candle tunneling. You've bought this beautiful candle from somewhere and it started to tunnel. Are there any ways to fix it? Well, first of all, have you cut your wick too short? Because again, as I said in a previous video, the wick is the energy force to your candle, and by leaving the wicks too long, you get problems. By cutting the wicks too short, you get problems. About 1/4 of an inch, about that high is all it should be, but that will then give enough energy. If you've cut your wick too short, get something like a little teaspoon or whatever and just try and take a little bit of the wax away from where the wick is, so just so that you've got a bit more just so you've got some more depth there for the wick, and see if that helps. So that's another tip. Another tip, I don't like this tip, but I know that many people use it. Just say that this is one that's tunneled, which it hasn't, thankfully, and that could be due to the fact as well, just on another point, that soy wax has a different melting point to paraffin wax, so it melts a little bit quicker, but weirdly enough the wax lasts longer. Very odd, isn't it? But some people, if they've got a already tunneled candle and they still want to use it and try and get it back to normal, what they'll use is they'll get a bit of tin foil, they'll put the tin foil over the top of the glass, trying to show you here, okay, and then they put a hole in the top, just a little hole, just so that it's got enough of the heat to come out there. And what that does is it heats the side of the vessel up, gets that warm, and then the wax should actually fall away from the sides. But to be honest with you, I've got them really, really well with candle cozies. As I say, the house, when I come home from work sometimes, can be bitterly cold. And, you have to adjust to how things are. I don't really like leaving my heating on, like on and on and on. Other people do things differently, and I don't always know when I'm going to be able to walk through the door. So people say, why don't you set your heating for such and such a time? Well, I never know. I can be working till late into the night. So yeah, candle cozy might help you. It's always worth a go. The other thing, of course, that you can do if you should experience any candle tunneling is to get a hurricane. What's a hurricane? You're thinking, my goodness, there's all these gadgets for candles and I just thought you lit them and blew them out. No, not quite that simple. So you've got a cold room, or you've been out and you need to make sure that your candle is up to temperature and stops candle tunneling. You can get one of these. They're called a candle hurricane. They can even be glass, they can come in so many different forms, but these are fabulous because all you do is literally put your candle inside there like so, and usually you get a nice glow as well, but that actually helps to heat the candle glass around the outside, or the candle metal, or whatever vessel or pot or anything that it's in. So again, that's a really great tip, and you can get them from many, many different places, from supermarkets to everywhere. And hopefully that will help you. So fingers crossed, and tune in for another video.